Okay, I have a show on Wednesday. Actually, on Thursday. Sorry, I have a show on Thursday. My first show for a while. Kind of took a break over winter because the original music scene in Ireland was pretty quiet at that time. So I have my first show in a while in on Thursday, which is very exciting. And I spent most of this week kind of preparing for that. So I didn't really have time to come up with a podcast topic. So because of that, I'm going to do a bit of a shorter video and also something a bit more spontaneous. I'm going to talk about my classic novels collection. And yeah, just take you through it. So this Jane Eyre is probably one of my favorite books. Top 3, I would say. If I had to give the top 3, this and A Tale of Two Cities. I actually don't have any Dickens in this pile. By the way, this is not an exhaustive list of classic novels that I've read. It's just the ones that I could find in my room. Top 3 books are probably A Tale of Two Cities, Jane Eyre, and then the Northern Lights trilogy is in there by Philip Pullman. Not a particular book in the series, but just that'd be in the favourites. If you had to ask me different series or favourite series, that would be a whole other question. But Jane Eyre is one of my favourite books ever. I read it as a child and it didn't make that much impact on me. And then I read it again as an adult and it had a huge impact on me, actually. I read it a few years ago during COVID. I got back into reading during COVID because historically I've been a big reader. When I was a child, I read pretty much constantly. And then just kind of fell out of it in secondary school and in college. And then in COVID, I was kind of just out of college. And I got back into reading. And I'm very glad I did. So I read this for the second time, as I've said, during that period. And it resonated with me so much. I related to Jane a lot as a character. And I felt like the book expresses really well the struggle that all people have, but I think is quite pertinent to women, of this trying to be good thing, you know, and also her struggle in deciding between what she thinks she should do and what she wants to do. I found that very pertinent to me, relatable. And yeah, it's just, I mean, it's amazing. That's a great thing and the joy about classic novels, that you can find that you relate to somebody. Like, this is not about Charlotte Bronte, as far as I know. But you can relate to something written by someone who lived almost 200 years ago now, I think. So yeah, that's one of my favourites. Austen-wise, I have Persuasion. I really liked Persuasion. There's a couple of books in this list that I prefer the movies of. Okay, fucking shoot me. I don't care. Generally, I'm a book person over a movie person, but sometimes I think it often is like it comes down to what you saw first, what you consumed first. So some of these books, I would have seen the films of them when I was a child. And I love the film, and as an adult loved the film, then read the book as an adult, and then I guess it wasn't exactly the same as the film, and then maybe I had more affection for the film. So I haven't seen the film of Persuasion, but I only mention that because Pride and Prejudice is one of my favourite ever films. 2003, Keira Knightley and Matthew McFadden, who's now killing it in Succession and many other things. Yeah, that's one of my favourite ever movies. But I didn't love the book of Pride and Prejudice, actually, and I've read it twice. Maybe I need to give it another go, but all that to say, I did like Persuasion, actually, and again, I found Anne Elliot to be quite relatable as kind of she's not an older sister character, actually. I'm an older sister, but I think she's like a middle sister. But again, it's this kind of cross section of duty, I suppose, and desire, which I liked. So, this is really, really good. I recommend this to anyone. This is George Orwell, Down and Out in Paris and London, and also The Road to Wigan Pier. So both books are in this book. So those are two separate books that he wrote. I really love both of those books. I read The Road to Wigan Pier separately first. In a different book. I borrowed it off somebody, I think. And then I bought the two of these originally for my dad, and then I don't think he's read it, and I read it. Which is usually the way when you buy a book for your dad, I think. I mean, his prose is so funny. Like, I don't know, does that qualify as prose? Basically, Road to Wigan Pier and Down and Out in Paris, for those who don't know, is non-fiction kind of autobiographical memoir work of George Orwell's. So it is like Down and Out in Paris is about being down and out in Paris. And lads, this man was so poor. Like, it's crazy, somebody whose book 1984 and Animal Farm has shaped so many generations since, but like, you're reading this and he's like, they've nothing to eat, like himself and his mates, like they're actually starving, like in Paris. And then The Road to Wigan Pier is about him travelling around, I believe, the north of the UK, maybe just northern England, actually. I think in a journalistic capacity, and kind of documenting the conditions there, which are, you guessed it, horrific. But like, the opening section of Road to Wigan Pier is just so funny. Like, he's describing this hostel, I guess it's a hostel that he's staying in, and how kind of revolting it is, and how revolting the owners are, and that, you know, with your rent you would get a piece of bread with butter on it, but the man's hand was so dirty that he would leave like a black mark on the piece of bread and butter, a black thumbprint, and he would just insist on handing it to you every time. So he's definitely got like a gift for humor, and is a funny writer, I think. I've read most of 1984 and then I kind of fell off of it. I'll probably go back to it at some stage. I have never read Animal Farm. Then this, The Secret Garden. This is another culprit where I prefer the film. I'm sorry. Okay. Again, the film is like, I believe it's from the 90s. It is just so visually stunning. The score is incredible. The score, the main piano theme is one of the first things I learned to play on piano. And I just have such an attachment to the film that I think, again, if you've seen the film first and then you read the book, you would need a pretty immense imagination to match the glory and majesty of nature as shown in the film, you know, when reading it in the book. And also Mary Lennox is kind of lamer in the book. Like, she's in the movie, like, she's kind of comically annoying, but also kind of kick-ass. Whereas in this, like, she's a bit of a drip, in my opinion. Like, you know the way when you see the film of a classic novel, and sometimes they've kind of modernized a little bits of, like, let's say even Colin, when he becomes when Colin improves, the kind of invalid character, and starts being happier, he still kind of treats the servants like shit. So that doesn't really appear in the film. So yeah. This is Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Now I'm going to be so real with you. This is not the edition that I read, or the book that I read. I read like a paperback like these. I don't know where it is, but this was gifted to me by a friend. It comes from Charlie Burns Bookshop. Shout out Willie. And it comes from Charlie Burns Bookshop in Galway, and just a really beautiful old edition. So I'll have to read it just to say that I read this lovely book. But Wuthering Heights, I loved it. But it's one of those weird ones where sometimes, you know, with a film or a book, you're not really enjoying it while you're reading it. Then when you get to the end, you go, God, that was great. I really enjoyed that. So that kind of happened to me with this book, where while I was reading it, like, you are a little bit consumed by how unlikable everybody is, which is the point. And and it can be a bit meandering at times. I guess as you're moving through the generations of the family and you don't really care about the new ones until they're sufficiently introduced to you. And yeah, just the unlikability of the characters. And then when I got to the end, just the end passage in particular was so beautiful and like so kind. I felt such a kind way of looking at these very imperfect, again, unlikable characters, but also people who'd suffered a lot, and kind of trying to give them as good a close and end as she can. I shouldn't have finished up with these, actually. Guys, 2 Dostoevsky books. I haven't finished either of them. I have tried to conquer Dostoevsky and I have royally failed. The first one is The Idiot, which is set kind of in wealthy Russian society, and it has about 50 characters, all of whom are called some variation of Livian or Bolshevin Praskievich, and also they have multiple names. So one character has one very complex name, but they're also known by another name, and it's so fucking confusing and really dull. I'm so sorry. If there's any idiot defenders, please come in the comments, because I really want to know what's so great about it. And I really wanted to like Dostoevsky, because anything I read of his quotes, videos I've watched of him, ideas about like the life he lived and the kind of philosophies he developed as a result of his life, I find quite beautiful. But I mean, it's just very Russian, I guess. Like, Russian literature is kind of written, structured, thought of in an entirely different way to more Western literature. But yeah, I found it very slow and very meandering. And then Crime and Punishment. Again, you can kind of see my bookmark. I got like about a third of the way in, I'd say. Couldn't hack that either. It's very different to The Idiot. Like, it's very miserable. In that this is a person who's like living in extreme poverty, as opposed to the kind of luxury and excess of The Idiot. I'm going to do a little spoiler, okay? Basically, the main plot of Crime and Punishment is the main character has no money, and he decides to kill a woman who I believe is a moneylender or something. Or she's like a pawner. Like, she doesn't run a pawn shop, but she pawns out of her house, so you can give her your watch, and she'll give you money. He decides to kill her and steal her money, and then things progress as, from that point on. But the one thing I never understood is, like, why do you jump to killing her? Can somebody explain that to me again, please, in the comments? Like, what happened to just good old-fashioned robbery, You don't have to bludgeon the woman to death to get her money. Like, she's a fucking old woman. Like, just rob her, I felt like it made the whole thing less relatable to me, where I was like, I don't understand how he got there right away. And maybe you could say, Crime and Punishment isn't supposed to be relatable. But, I mean, I think all literature, all art is supposed to be relatable to a degree, is it? That's a whole other video. And I didn't want to do a video essay this week because I didn't feel like it and I didn't have anything planned. Yeah, so that's all that I have with me. If I can find others around the house, maybe I'll do another one with the rest of them, or another book themed video. Yeah, let me know if you like the video, what your favorite classic novels are, or if you've struggled with any of the same ones that I've struggled with. Listen to my music, it's really fucking good. And I post every Wednesday. So see you next week.